Hello everybody, it's Mimberly. Welcome back to the channel. Now, I know we've been hit with a wave of disappointment today, unfortunately. It's the 29th of July, and a lot of people in the fandom were speculating that we were going to be getting some sort of announcement about Valko, and unfortunately, as of yet, Infold are yet to break their silence. I personally think that putting a date on the 29th of July was not the smartest decision, considering the fact that, especially with these legal things, there's probably like at least multiple steps that they have to go through, and these things do take a lot of time. So while we've been having a lot of good news in the community, generally, there are some things that I've been kind of a little bit uneasy about, and I think Angel's going to go into this video, or go into those today. So we're reacting to Angel. Now, this is the first video of hers that we've reacted to on this particular channel. This isn't really the video I wanted to debut my Angel Corner reactions, but unfortunately with the situations currently going on, I think she's one of the best people to watch here. So I want to just read the description of this video real quick, because yeah, I have just leaked the next video plan, but it's fine. You guys can get excited about that for double upload month. So it has now been more than a month since Valko's preview was revealed, and somehow this situation keeps developing new layers. In this video, I'm covering the more objective Chinese media articles that have started appearing, the recent CCTV reports on Otome games, minors bypassing 18+ restrictions, account trading, underage spending, facial verification, the age breakdowns from several Weibo polls, and what all of this may mean for Love and Deepspace going forward. The CCTV report was not entirely positive, but its central focus was also not Valko, A0731, or the women's safety accusations. Instead, it focused on a much more concrete problem: minors gaining access to adult-oriented games through borrowed identities and pre-verified accounts, and then spending ridiculous amounts of money. That distinction is encouraging, but it doesn't mean that the earlier misinformation caused no damage. It does not mean wider public opinion has completely changed, and it definitely does not tell us what Infold is dealing with behind closed doors. Infold is still silent, and we still have no idea what the fuck is going on. Valko also trended on Weibo a few nights ago. Did someone buy the hot search? Who knows? I'm not going to pretend I have an answer. All I know is that we have a surprising amount of encouraging news lately. More objective reporting is appearing, misinformation is slowly being challenged, and players are continuing to show that the demand for Valko has not disappeared. At the same time, the presence of extremely young users in the fandom, the age patterns across several Weibo polls, possible outside amplification, and the wider media response make one thing very clear: this shit has layers. None of this proves that Valko is coming back, but it does mean we cannot stop now. Please keep correcting misinformation, keep showing that there is real and sustained demand for him, and keep supporting the constructive efforts like Letters for Valko. But stay calm. Do not create artificial deadlines. Do not let every unverified rumor throw you into another emotional spiral. And she has provided all the links so you guys can go and check this out yourselves. Now, before we do get into this, right, I feel the need to talk about my thoughts, okay? So, as I mentioned earlier, I think the whole deadline of the 29th of July was full speculation. And I'm going to be honest, I never personally believed that we were going to get a response from Infold that quickly. Now, am I upset that I was proven correct on that? Yes. But it does mean personally, and this is just my personal opinion, as someone who has done research into like this sort of thing through my online course, I've never dealt with it directly. Like, I don't have any first-hand experience like Nikki from Love and Chickspace has, but I do know a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes when a legal situation does happen. And I'm going to be completely honest, the amount of misinformation that I've been seeing going around online is genuinely very concerning. Now, my personal thoughts with regards to I'm going to use the word minors, because in the UK at least, I don't know how this is in other countries, so please let me know if you guys know this, and I will, you know, make sure you guys get your comments bumped up. But in the UK, if you read the terms and service of Love and Deepspace, it says in there that you have to be a minimum of 13 or over to play Love and Deepspace. I have always said that I think that number is too low. I think really it should be more towards the very earliest 16 plus, if not 18 plus. Now, the reason I say this is because Love and Deepspace is a gacha game. It's designed to get to make you develop an emotional attachment to these 3D men that we love so much, and get us to spend really big amounts of money to get cards, myths, etc. And we've all moaned about the schedule being absolutely relentless on our wallets. And honestly, that is genuinely still the case. I mean, I personally have never been able to spend much on lads anyway, because for those of you who don't know me personally, my husband is from America, and I've been having to put the money that I had spare away for his visa, so I haven't had the luxury of spending a shit ton of money anyway, and most of the time I've gotten the resources through in-game and the daily login, which was a better value for money, and also the wishes you get from the promise. But I do know some people who have spent a lot of money on this game, and the amount of extra money those guys probably have in their bank accounts now is actually insane. But I do not believe for a second that anyone under the age of 18 should be playing Love and Deepspace. This is potentially a very controversial opinion, but as someone who has seen the damage of what social media can do, especially to younger adults, or like, you know, teenagers going into adulthood, because in the UK an adult is considered anyone over the age of 18, it's definitely, I would personally rather they do 18 plus stuff and you know, limit the game to those 18 plus, so that way they're not having to censor or change content to appeal to a younger audience. Like, for example, Lingering Lust, for instance, that was like the very tether, I think, of what they could get away with. And I'm going to be completely honest, I really enjoyed the Lingering Lust banner. I would say it's probably one of my most memorable banners when it comes to cards. Not just because of the spice, but because the voice lines were really good. And as you see, I'm just here trying to justify myself for being a simp here. But would I feel comfortable if I had a 16-year-old daughter and she was playing that content? Absolutely not. And I think this is, honestly, this is, as Angel very nicely worded it, really, this shit's got layers. Like, because this isn't just Love and Deepspace now. This is a much bigger problem, and I want to know what Angel has to say about it, because if anyone knows how to say this in a good way, it's going to be her. So let's watch this.
So I mainly want to catch everyone up on what has changed
how are you doing?
Since my last video, because somehow every few days another layer of this situation comes to light. And
yeah, that's actually insane. The fact that this happened, that this started nearly a month ago, and still every other day we seem to be getting some sort of big news or some big announcement, it's actually kind of insane. Like, that's one of the reasons I've not been making as much content on the Valko situation that I would like to. I've like recorded reactions to like 4 videos about this, and then by the time I've gotten around to actually editing them, they've become obsolete because something else has happened. You know, I'm just a girl. I'm not physically capable of keeping up with all this, plus obviously emotional distress as well. But it's ridiculous how quick this is kind of blown up as fast as it did.
Hopefully this will keep everyone on the same page. And as usual, all the articles and sources I mentioned will be linked in the description. So it has now been just over a month since we first saw Valko's PV. It has been 28 days since Infold announced his cancellation. For a community made up of largely working adults with jobs, families, responsibilities, and a whole lot of shit to do, I think we've done an incredible job staying loud as fuck, because even in the middle of our busy lives, we kept going. And eventually on July 15th, our persistence began entering the Chinese media record.
Honestly, I'm genuinely very proud as well, because, like, granted, you're going to have some bad eggs in every community, that's always going to happen, but the fact that instead of going on a negative way, you know, we raised money for, wolf conservations, we got a star named after him, we have done so many positive things. I have also seen the letters for Valko as well, which, I have also, done, so I will put the link to that in the description for you guys as well. I think Angel will probably mention that sometime later on. But the fact that from my overall experience, most of us have decided to go down the showing support in the correct way, being really supportive, being understanding, you know, not threatening the devs of the game, And don't get me wrong, you are completely within your rights and feel justified to say, I am really angry at this, or I am really upset that you've taken Valko away. But at the same time, I don't think swooping down to the antis level that started this whole shebang is going to cause anything. If it's just going to cause more trouble. So I am genuinely quite proud of this community for how loud we've been. I mean, we've even got fucking Baby No Money involved in it now. I think he's doing his Valko cosplay soon. We've also got Iron Mouse on it. We've had other content creators making videos about it, and some of them not the most positive, shall we say, but even they say that you know, it's actually insane. And the fact that it's recently come to light that a lot of the people who were anti-Valko were minors just really, again, emphasizes just how bad it is. Because like, they described the situation as a helpless woman. Bitch, MC punched the fuck out of Valko in the trailer. She literally punches him right smack bang in the face. I think if MC didn't want Valko there, I think she'd be capable of getting him out. You know what I mean? So the whole situation to me was just people jumping to conclusions too quickly, and this is unfortunately just a regular problem in today's society. But they don't do their research. They just immediately jump and open their mouth before they do the research. And I've noticed that a lot with media as well in general. Like, one of the reasons that I do not, like, for example, in the UK, you've got the BBC, so the British Broadcasting Corporation, and they do things like the news and TV shows and stuff like that. Now, in the UK, in order for you to watch live television, you need a TV license. And that includes any live service. So, for example, if you want to watch the football, if you want to watch the latest soap drama, if you're watching anything in real time, you have to get a license. And me and Kate have always said and point blank refused to pay for a license because it's about £169.50 a year. And, of course, you do have the option to pay monthly. But me and Kate do not watch live television. If I watch anything on YouTube, it's, you know, it's either through Amazon or Amazon, so, Amazon Video. Might be through Netflix, might be through YouTube. I don't watch live television. But I have to disclaim to the BBC every single year that I don't watch live TV. And I see so much media online, because there's nothing stopping me from going, for example, on the BBC News. Like, say there's a particular article that's taken my interest. I can go on the website and read it because it's not live, it's not classed. But every time I used to check the BBC News quite regularly, and now I've just stopped doing it because every single time you load up, it's like, oh, this bad thing's happening, this bad thing's happening, this bad thing's happening. And a lot of these titles are very clickbaity, or they make the situation worse than what it actually is. And I think, unfortunately, that's just the nature of social media. We naturally respond to negativity better than positivity. And that's one of the reasons why I have limited making as many videos as I did about the Valko situation. Because I've always said from day one, I want this community to be a bright and positive and bubbly environment. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. We're already 47 seconds into the video, and I've already been recording for over 10 minutes. But I personally have always said that I wanted to cultivate a community that was bright, positive, and supported each other. And I do think me limiting what content I'm covering with regards to drama has made a huge impact on that. I mean, a lot of you say to me quite regularly that you guys come here to get away from the negativity, and that's what I want you guys to do. So I will continue to be more on the positive side. Does that mean I'm not affected by the whole situation? Of course not. I'm human like everyone else. I've had some people messaging me in my, which has gone into my how to review comments, threatening me because I'm not participating in the boycott. I've had some people say to me, well, I thought you weren't making content on the game anymore. And I've made my stance clear, saying that I don't know what I'm doing with lads content yet. I'm still going to be playing it for at least until the end of 2026. So that gives info about another 4 months to get them to get their stuff all sorted. If they turn around and go, okay, we're going to bring Valko back, but he's going to be delayed, then that would be a conversation for another day. But my genuine hope at the moment is just that Infold are just finishing up some legal issues, and they do have full intentions on bringing him back. I have just had an email, which thankfully was not what I was expecting it to be. Thank God. Okay. But I have sent emails to involve myself, obviously being a part of the content creator program. We are just in the dark as you, unfortunately. We have literally not had any communication. The last time that we heard from our quote-unquote staff members was the 1st of July. We have literally heard nothing since. So trust me when I say that we are just as much in quiet and silence as you are. And all that message was them announcing they were bringing in another team member to help increase communication with us. And we have never heard from this individual since. So we are just as frustrated as you. We are talking in that chat every day, and the staff do have access to that chat. I've certainly sent my emails and my points across, but I haven't just brought up Valko. I've brought up multiple other points, but it is a very strange and difficult time for us content creators to be in right now, because we kind of feel like we're damned if we do it and damned if we don't. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on as much as you guys, really.
Particular important articles were published. The first appeared on the website of Hebei Youth Daily, and it talked about the 240,000 petition that we had and questioned who ultimately bears the cost when creative works are subjected to endless speculative associations.
Oh, I don't think I've actually seen this. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to read this out for anyone who is, listening in. So, Ao Yin's petition for return exceeded 240,000. Good job, daughter. Proud of you for making that petition. He will bear the cost of over-association. So, as of July 14th, on the overseas petition platform iPetitions, the main petition requesting Love and Deepspace to resume the online program of a new male protagonist, Ao Yin, has over 240,000 signature records, over 85,000 related comments, and there are still some users who continue to participate. Oh God. I should not be drinking Coke at the moment, which is making me gassy. On domestic social platforms, the character creation, event sorting, and recovery demands surrounding Ao Yin have not stopped. The above data cannot be directly equated to the number of independent players due to the possible duplicate participation on different platforms, but continued growing feedback suggests that the turmoil did not end with the character's cancellation. Ao Yin is the 6th male protagonist of Love and Deepspace to be released on the 22nd of June. That's the thing. We could have had him for over a month by now, guys. That's actually how insane this situation is. It was originally scheduled to be launched on July the 9th, but 8 days after the official announcement, the production team cancelled the launch due to multiple controversies such as product operation and content interpretation, and subsequent development. A character who has completed multi-language promotion, plot trailer, and combat system display have withdrawn from product planning, which has also caused players to discuss whether the original accepts the new male protagonist and gradually shifts to whether the permanent cancellation has truly solved the original problem. Newsflash, it hasn't. New user feedback is still emerging after the cancellation announcement. This not only means that the high volume of public opinion during the peak period may not cover all players' opinions, but also raises a more industry sufficient question. When product disputes, textual questions and judgments about the position of the enterprise are entwined, how can real and continuing user needs be identified? When names, numbers, and lines are constantly being given extended meanings, is there an irreversible loss to the industry? Characters were eliminated, and user needs did not disappear with them. Ao Yin was officially made public on the 22nd of June. Previously released material shows that the character was originally planned to be accompanied by a character, concept short film, plot content, multi-language dubbing, interactive and combat system, and was launched with version 6.0. The announcement on the 30th of June clearly cancelled its launch and development arrangements, and other system gameplay and some event rewards will continue to be launched according to the adjusted plan. That's how rubbish this whole situation is. Infold chucked a daily login to get 30 wishes at us. They then put the Wonder and Wonder banner to be rerun, which I think, to be honest, was kind of to emphasize to the Chinese government that, look, we're showing them about, Chinese culture, it's making China look good, that sort of thing. But the thing that's concerned me is the fact that we have now gone nearly a week without a banner. We still have the standard banner, granted, but we have not had a limited banner or a rerun for a while. Now, I expecting them to, throw out another one? Because we had the God of Annihilation rerun, which I still personally think was a bit of a dick move, but I do think it was still initially planned. So I think they kind of just slapped that in there to buy themselves a bit more time. But it does feel very strange. Like, as someone who has had limited interaction with Infold's marketing team, it does not seem right. It's almost like they're prepared to drop something at last second notice, because remember, Wonder and Wonders rerun was a shadow drop. And this is what I think is so interesting about this situation, is the fact that Infold are actively not choosing to run another banner right now. Which means that they probably are fully aware that if they rerun another banner right now, it's going to cause them more damage than anything else. This is another version of damage control, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong. I don't work in a game company. Unfortunately, I work in insurance. But what I would personally think is the reason that they are holding off on running anything is because either A, they are currently in the process of remixing the entire schedule, because remember, they had accommodated to release Valko. So now that Valko, at least for the time being, is not coming to the game, they're going to have to remove absolutely fucking everything. And obviously they got to be like, oh, well, which cards can we run without pissing off our player base even more? And the answer is none of them, really. But that is really interesting, and I do think that Infold should sue the antis for especially like reputational damage, because Infold are going to have to pull some miracle out of their butt, in my opinion, to recover from this. Because remember, every day that this situation is going on, Infold are losing a shit ton of money, and that's not what they want.
So this publication, Hebei Youth Daily, is a legitimate provincial newspaper based in Hebei. And then later that same day, just a few hours later, Reform Network republished an article titled "Overseas Player Continue to Speak Out. How Can Domestic Games Transform Global Feedback into Content Growth?" This one is particularly significant because Reform Network is operated by China's Development and Reform Press, which is a public institution directly under the National Development and Reform Commission. But again, just to be clear, this was not the NDRC issuing an official order telling Infold to restore Valko, but it is still a big deal that a central-level, state-affiliated economic media platform was willing to publish an argument recognizing sustained overseas support.
Before we do go any further, I want to go back a little bit, because there's a particular paragraph I've seen here that I just want to read out. So, Al Yin was the sixth romanceable male lead revealed on the 22nd of June for the game Love and Deepspace, originally scheduled for release with the July 9th update. However, the development team announced on the 30th of June that his release and subsequent development were cancelled. Following the cancellation, overseas players' actions have gradually expanded from petitions to fan art, charitable donations, and offline events. During the Los Angeles Anime Expo, players created Al Yin-themed materials, set up support areas, and cosplayed as him. Related wildlife conservation organizations also previously disclosed that the game's community raised over $9,000 for wolf conservation projects in the character's name. How amazing is that? That as a community, we have not only supported each other through this hard time, but we've fucking raised money for wolf conservation projects in his name. Can we just take a minute to just clap and celebrate for ourselves, because that is an amazing achievement, and that is very positive for this community.
Recognizing sustained overseas support and treating that support as a legitimate market feedback, and saying that this audience deserved further evaluation. In other words, it did not frame us, the global fans, as annoying foreigners trying to interfere with a Chinese game. It treated overseas player as part of the actual audience, market, and long-term commercial future of Love and Deepspace. And then in the following days, similar articles began popping up, and they're not super positive, but they are objective. Far, far more objective and fair compared to the super slanderous articles that were being published in the last 2-3 weeks. Now, I'm not going to pretend that a handful of more objective articles has somehow erased the avalanche of negative coverage that came before them, because the volume the volume of the negative ones and the super objective ones is not remotely comparable. There were hundreds of the negative ones, and the damage was already done. 2 weeks.
The thing is, all it takes is one person to say something bad, and then someone will say the same thing, but in a different way, to jump on the train and get the views. So that's just how, and that's how the information spreads. And unfortunately, it's not good.
Earlier, we saw article after article repeating assumptions about an unreleased story, and frankly, some poorly researched bullshit that became more and more extreme every time it was republished.
Angel, shout it from the fucking rooftops, my love.
More balanced reporting has appeared much more slowly, and much of it remained buried on official websites rather than being widely promoted across Weibo, Xiaohongshu, and other social platforms. But I will take quality over quantity. Because
yes, and the fact that, I don't know, maybe the fact that it's taken them longer to post it means they've actually done their fucking research. Ugh, I hate social media sometimes.
Because the questions being asked are beginning to change. Instead of asking nonsensical things about women's safety and absurd connections with real-life murder, some writers are now asking whether fragmented information distorted public opinions, whether overseas players should be recognized as part of a global product, and whether permanent cancellation was ever the only rational solution. And then the cherry on top was on July 21st. CCTV covered the Otome gacha genre in China. Not just Love and Deepspace, it was the whole entire genre. And I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first saw that CCTV was covering Otome games, I broke out in a cold sweat because, okay, for anyone unfamiliar, CCTV, China's Central Television, is China's national state broadcaster. So this is not just some random TV channel. When CCTV chooses to dedicate a segment to an issue, it can give that issue national visibility and signal that it is being viewed through a much broader social, legal, or regulatory lens. For a relatively niche form of media like Otome games, that kind of attention does not necessarily feel flattering. It feels like scrutiny. The best example I can give for the global audience, it's similar to seeing a major national news program suddenly cover GTA through concerns about violence and kids killing people and buying sex work in-game. Even with that example, I know that it doesn't sound that serious when you look at it from a global perspective, but things just work differently over there, and
they really do. And that's one of the reasons I think the global players generally just need to, as frustrating as it is, we just need to calm the fuck down. We just need to keep talking about Valko, make sure that, you know, the attention is still there, make sure that, you know, the demand for him is still there. But the thing is, we need to appreciate that there are laws and regulations and other things in play that we as global players do not have personal first-hand experience with. And honestly, I would rather Infold spend 2 to 3 months getting this sorted and come back with a proper official response and a corrective actions, rather than panic, say something, and then it come back to bite them in the ass later. For example, one of the issues that I keep raising with Infold, and I have been doing this mostly for my my other friends and my other girlies, it was the lighting issue with darker toned or, you know, darker skin toned MCs. I have always said that they should have some sort of feature where the lighting can be automatically adjusted, or have a system in place. So maybe when you choose a particular skin tone in the game, it adjusts the lighting based on which one you select. I have always said that that is a very serious issue and it does need to be addressed. It has personally never directly impacted me because I am not on that side of the community, but I know there's plenty of amazing creators who are on that side of the community, so I've been fighting for them. I've also been saying that Infold need to communicate better with regards to banners. Even if it's like every 6 months, they do like a live stream and they kind of give us a potential, like a little roadmap, or give us some sneak peeks. Like, for example, you guys remember when they were kicking up about Solace and Caleb main story, and they said that we're going to be expecting Caleb and Solace main story by the end of the year. That's still better than nothing. And with the main story in particular, I would rather wait 6 months and it be really good, rather than they post an update every month and it be botched. And that's what would happen, because we have to remember the Love and Deepspace team is not a AAA studio. So it's kind of like balancing taking the piss and giving them time to cook. And unfortunately, I'm a very patient person. You know, there's other games that I do like covering on this channel, not just Love and Deepspace. So anytime there's a gap in content, I'll utilize that opportunity to check out other games that could be interesting. Like you guys would have seen on my screen earlier that I downloaded the demo for Registering a Fate, which will be coming in double upload month. A Date with Death is another really good example. You've got other games like Touch Starved. We played quite a few games between gaps in content, and I think it is healthy to be able to play other games without limiting yourself to one game. But I know that's how gachas make their money, but I do think it should be normal behavior for us to be able to play other games between gaps.
We are operating under like a completely different system that we are unfamiliar with and we're not used to. But if you look up similar cases and what happened to games after being scrutinized by like state media like that, you'll understand why this had me worried. When CCTV started discussing Otome games, my immediate fear was not simply that Love and Deepspace was receiving negative press again. It was that an entire niche genre created primarily for adult women had suddenly entered the attention of state media. And historically, that kind of visibility can create pressure for platforms and companies to become far more conservative than they were before. And obviously, the CCTV report was not entirely positive. It raised concerns about minors accessing adult-oriented games, the risk of gacha spending, and how easily the current age verification system can be bypassed.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because like at least in the UK, I'm one of those people that if I have to upload my ID, I do check my sources to check it's legit before I do anything. And even then, you know, like, do you guys remember when with the Online Safety Act coming in the UK, and it has been now for a while, I had to submit either a face scan or my passport to prove I was over the age of 18 just to access my own Discord server, by the way. I did a face scan, and because I didn't have makeup on, they thought I was a teenager, so they limited my access. And then I just slapped on some mascara and tied my hair up, and then they magically thought I was an adult. And the other thing as well, women are very powerful when you put makeup in their hands. We can make ourselves look from being an old crippled woman to a beautiful 25-year-old woman, okay? We are very talented when it comes to makeup, and there's only so much a camera can do to figure out the differences. And that's the thing. I have always said that it should be the parents' responsibility to monitor what their children are doing online. But unfortunately, at least in my area, this is very common. I see parents in my area literally giving vapes to their 15-year-old kids just to shut them up because they're too busy talking on the phone to Stacy or whoever it is they're on the phone to. Their parenting in my area is genuinely atrocious, and you're going to get that everywhere. Not everyone is, not everyone in the world is right to be a parent, but it should be down to the parents. But then there are also some parents out there who are genuinely trying their best. They may be on their own. They might be a single mom or a single dad, or they might be in a situation where they don't have the knowledge and the, technical capabilities to be able to know about things, like, for example, parental controls, which I think as a country, at least I don't know about other countries, I can only talk about the UK, being living here. I do think it should be normalized for parents to be able to access free classes and resources to learn how to protect their child online, because it is getting worse. They're talking about bringing in the social media ban for people under the age of 16. Now, while I do agree to an extent that is a good idea, I do also think that it's also setting the kids up for failure, because then the second they turn 18, they're all going to be making Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever the heck they're making today, or like TikTok accounts, and they're going to get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things that are available on the internet, and they're going to get targeted by scams, fraudsters, etc. So I do think we need to find that balance of education for parents and children, and unfortunately I think this is just another one of those topics that's got so many different arguments and layers. It's very hard to find a middle ground for it.
The report followed a woman identified as Miss Wu, whose 13-year-old daughter used her identity to register an 18 plus Otome game, which is Love in Deepspace. According to Miss Wu, her daughter first spent more than 7,000 yuan, which is approximately 1,000 USD. And even after the account was discovered and taken away, she continued playing by buying a finished account online. Basically, an account that had already passed adult real name verification. And then altogether, including merchandise, Miss Wu estimated that her daughter had spent close to 30,000 yuan, which is approximately 4,000 USD. But CCTV did not frame this as just one family's problem. The report investigated online account marketplaces and found sellers openly offering accounts that had already passed real name verification. And that exposed the biggest flaw in the current system. Verifying the identity registered to an account is not the same as verifying who is actually using it. An adult's information may be attached to the account, but that does not mean an adult is the one behind the screen.
And this is why I think we need to bring something in with regards to this. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to claim to know the answer because that is way above my pay grade. But let me know what you guys think about this situation. Like, if you had your choice, like if you had to make this decision, what would you do? Because it is hard, because once you've passed, you don't want to have to verify yourself on your account every time you want to log in, especially a game like Lads where you do need to log in every day. But I do think there needs to be some sort of like regular checks involved, maybe. Like for example, a very good example actually is my bank. So my bank has got 3 modes of verification to get into my account. You've got my passcode, you've got my biometrics, so my fingerprint, and my face. Now, at the moment, my phone and my bank are set up, so I have 2 fingers registered to it, 1 face with makeup, 1 face without makeup, and of course my spouse, or a passcode. Now that passcode, not even my husband knows, because if anything were to happen, and for some odd reason, say the facial scan was not working, only I'd be able to get into the bank. And he's got the same thing with his phone as well. So I can access his bank, he can access my bank, understandably, because we're married. But we also have a joint account where if we need to make any new direct debits or set anything up, it requires a signature from both myself and my husband for that authorization to go through. So maybe we need something kind of along those lines where there's like, I don't know, say that you have to regularly, do a face scan once a week or something. Again, I don't know. This is just an idea off the top of my head. It's probably a stupid one, but I can understand why there is such a big concern about this.
This issue did not suddenly appear when CCTV covered it in July, like recently. A very similar case had already been featured by the local consumer affairs program in May. We can't really confirm whether the 2 reports involved the same family, but that's not really the point. The point is that the loophole had already been documented publicly. CCTV then took that existing problem and expanded it into a wider discussion about account trading, identity verification, adult content, and underage spending across the Otome game industry. And honestly, as alarming as the CCTV coverage initially looked, I was also quite relieved when I watched all of it, because they did not talk about the women's safety issue or the anti-China rumors. Because if the historical and political accusations surrounding A0731 had become the central state media understanding of this controversy, I would expect the report to look very, very different. Those accusations would likely have been stated directly, repeated prominently, and treated as a much more serious political and ideological issue.
Right.
But that did not happen. The recognized problem in this segment was not that Love in Deepspace was anti-China. It was not that Valko represented a danger to women. It was that minors could bypass the game's age restrictions and then spend a ridiculous amount of money.
But that could happen with any game, not necessarily Love in Deepspace. I think it was just unfortunate that Lads did come under the crossfire, because it was that game in particular that this happened with. But this could happen with any other 18 plus Otome game, and that's the point it was trying to raise.
Was the issue CCTV chose to scrutinize. And I want to add a quick disclaimer here, because I don't want this point to be misunderstood. Just because CCTV did not repeat the most insane accusations like the anti-China one or all the other ones does not mean that the wider public opinion has already changed, or that the damage caused by those narratives has somehow disappeared. Like I said earlier, the negative framing spread much faster and much more widely than the corrections that came afterward. We also don't know what other pressures Infold may be dealing with behind the scenes, whether they are regulatory, commercial, platform related, internal, or something else entirely. And although Love in Deepspace was the primary example used throughout the segment, the criticism was broader than just this one game. In my personal opinion, and this is just like my personal interpretation of this news segment, I think the report kind of used the most visible and commercially successful title in the genre as a representative case through which to scrutinize the wider Otome game industry. Basically, Love in Deepspace stood out, so it became the game placed under the microscope. That is both reassuring and concerning. It's reassuring because CCTV did not elevate the earlier anti-China or women's safety accusations into the central state media narrative, but it is concerning because Love in Deepspace is now being used as the example through which the entire genre is being discussed.
Which is not right, because Love in Deepspace has got their own controversies themselves, but... oh, dear me. Right, that's quite a bit of information to take in. I'm going to take a quick 5-10 minute break, and then I'll be right back with you. I like to take little breaks between, just so I can, like, process the information we've just heard, so bear with me. Okay, right, now that I'm back from my break, let's carry on with this. So... whew.
And when one company becomes the representative case for a broader industry problem, the pressure placed on that company can become enormous. But still, the actual problem identified in the report is something that can be addressed. Stronger identity verification, restrictions on the sale of pre-verified accounts, spending safeguards, and shared responsibility between companies, marketplaces, regulators, and, you know, all that regulatory stuff, all that jazz.
Which is so good to see that they are addressing that is the concern and it's not the company themselves.
He did also scrutinize the game's content, unfortunately. Miss Wu specifically objected to the Hot Springs card from Lingering Lust.
Of all of them they could have talked about, they had to do the frisky one, because that was totally gonna happen. I mean, I still am shocked that Infold got away with that banner. Obviously, you know, now it's kind of coming a bit more to light. But it does again emphasize that under 18 should not be playing that game. Because I would personally rather have Love in Deepspace be 18 plus and mark every video as being not safe for kids and being 18 plus only, rather than have the content that they initially planned stopped because they're adjusting or, you know, catering to the minors, because, you know, we're adult women, we're allowed to simp over our men.
Describing the partially undressed male characters and their behavior as suggestive. And the legendary pussy muncher Shen Xinghui's Xavier was put on blast on Chinese national television. What?
I've always said Xavier was the one who was going to get me cancelled, and now look at it.
What a time to be alive. But the important distinction is that the criticism was framed around minors accessing this material, not around the idea that adult women should never be allowed to consume romantic or sexually suggestive content. If you actually watch the whole thing, the report itself ultimately said that youth development problems should not all be blamed on games, and that the goal should be balance rather than a total ban.
Oh yeah, because that's the other thing, by the way. So we're not allowed to simp over our men, but yet men have got God knows how many games where you get the same armor for a woman character than a male character, and the woman's basically got like next to no armor on, because unfortunately women are very sexualized in very particular genres and certain communities, rather than, you know, because I am down to watch a hot chick wear a shit ton of armor and be a sexy badass, but no, I want to put that character on my male character. Oh yeah, he's fully covered. I put that same armor on my woman character and magically it loses 95% of its material. It's insane to me.
And judging from the top comments on Weibo, a lot of viewers appeared to understand that distinction as well.
I want to read these comments. So, parents, please take good care of your minors. Cannot blame the game for all the problems that arise when teenagers grow up. Parents, stay with their children more and communicate more patiently and gently. This child is trying to get attention and a sense of companionship from the game at such a young age. You can imagine how much love she lacks in reality. Adults will only point out that virtual and real are not the same, which is the right nonsense. But isn't it true that children go to the virtual to find love and companionship because they lack love and companionship? How to guide correctly and communicate effectively rather than blindly blocking is the fundamental approach. Restrictions on the fraudulent use of adult status by minors are required. All parents are optimistic about their ID cards and don't let the children use them. Let parents take care of WCN rather than squeeze the adult game space. Real name authentication cannot be just a formality. I like that they are pointing it towards the parents, being like, right, they need to basically better their, children, parent their children better. Like, I'm not a parent. Me and Kate have tried, but unfortunately, it's not happened as of yet. But me and Kate have always made multiple rules, being that if we were to have a child, they're going to have limited screen time. We're going to know what they're doing. And if it is a situation where, for example, my kid comes up to me and goes, oh, Mum, I want to play this game, I'll do some research into the game first and then give them the okay to potentially look at playing it. Or I can go, okay, you can play it, but it's going to be on the computer in the living room where we can keep an eye on you. And that's what happened with me when I was growing up. We had like a computer in our living room, which I commonly would use for like doing homework, especially because this is when homework stopped being so paper-based and started going virtual. And I would literally be in the living room with a cup of tea, typing away and having the boys on call with me. And because I was in an IT class growing up, so a lot of my classmates were male. So my mum put my computer in the living room. She could hear every conversation that was going on. And probably the most important thing as well for me was the fact that I wanted to start, when I was little, I wanted to start playing World of Warcraft. And I really, really wanted to play the game. And my dad was a World of Warcraft player himself, so was my mum. So they let me play on their account. And then when they had established that I was doing things correctly and that, I wasn't talking to random strangers, I was ignoring message requests, that sort of thing, then they trusted me to have my own account. But they put a shit ton of parental controls on that account. First off, I think one of the main ones that I had, I can't remember all of them now, this was a while ago, I had a limited amount of playtime a day, so I could only spend a maximum of 8 hours on the game in general, especially during weekends when I wasn't at school. And every month, Blizzard actually sent my parents a playtime report so they could see at what times I'd logged into the game and how long those durations were for. And if I ever went over my limit for a set number of consecutive days, as in like I reached my maximum for, say, for example, 5 days in a row when I was on school holidays, they would actually temporarily take that account away from me and make me either try to play something else, or they would give me some sort of punishment, like, for example, studying for homework, that sort of thing. And doing that really helped me learn how to regulate my time between spending time relaxing and playing games, working/studying, and then doing other stuff as well. Like, I didn't have many friends growing up, so I wasn't able to, go out and spend time with the other kids, because I was very heavily bullied, right? So, I would stay indoors a lot, and every time I did go out, my friends at the time always used to get me in trouble. So I would, say, for example, take up a creative art. So I started learning how to draw properly. Then I started reading a bit more because I was particularly struggling in English growing up, like reading and writing. Then I would go downstairs and spend some time in the kitchen with my mum and start learning basic cooking skills. Then if they wanted to go out to the shop, my parents would bring me with them and they would give me the game of, okay, I need you to make me a meal and it can't go over this much amount of money for the whole meal. So they taught me how to budget, and there's so many little things that my parents turned into a game for me, but it was teaching me a lesson at the same time. Then I think that one of the most important things my parents did was they taught me about the bills I would have to pay growing up. Like, I moved out into a house share at the age of 18 and I knew exactly what bills I'd have to pay. Then time skipped to when me and my first boyfriend moved into a rental place by ourselves. Actually, no, it wasn't my first boyfriend. It was my second boyfriend at this point. We moved out into a small, communal flat, which was above a shop. And he was so overwhelmed with how many bills there were. He basically put me in charge of everything. And there was times where we couldn't afford the electric because it was like a top-up meter. But because I'd accommodated and put money back for it, I could cover the electric. So there was a lot of things that my parents in particular did to make sure that as an adult I would be, raised in the correct way. And I think my parents were really good for everything they've done. But not every parent, unfortunately, is like my parents. Like, for example, my ex's parents are bloody useless. So I do think, unfortunately, this is coming down to what I said earlier about it being a very heavy parent problem.
By the way, if you would like to read or watch the report yourself but don't understand Chinese, I linked a Google Doc in the description with both the Chinese transcript and the English translation.
This is why we love you, Angel.
The transcription was also checked by 2 native speakers to make sure that everything is correct. You're welcome. So now that we're in the topic of minors, I want to respectfully remind everyone to not flatten the situation to just infold bending their knees to toxic players and minors. Because remember the stamp statement? Remember the copious amount of negative, slanderous articles that came out? This whole thing had toxic players and minors involved. Yes, but this shit has layers. And also there is another layer that I don't want to talk about too much because the evidence I have is limited to screenshots and individual posts. But I've seen accounts presenting themselves as players from outside of the Love and Deepspace fandom, openly discussing their desire to damage paper games or Love and Deepspace.
What the fuck? Do we have nothing better to do with our lives? So you guys are too passive, go on offensive and attack their female-dominated games too. Mass report Deepspace. That's even worse of a porn game. And Chinese Gov is also against content that give women too high standards. Hey, buddy. Loki's just come in. It has already been done. The collaboration between lads and the university has been cancelled, and the university has deleted posts related to the collaboration from its social media accounts. Good, but not good enough. They even getting content in the game taken down. Blank had to remove/censor content because that's also being reported. Deepspace has plenty of very sexual scenes from what I've seen in other posts. Those can be taken down too. Okay, from what you've seen, do you play the game? No, you're probably a man complaining that you can't get a girlfriend because our standards are too high. But, I'm making assumptions here. But, that's how these comments come across. Like, it literally is like, this is a personal position that I've been in. So Kate fully supports me playing lads, right? But there has been partners in the past which I know, not myself personally, but one of my friends at work, I say friends in quote marks because she's more of a colleague. You guys remember I mentioned a while back that it was actually a work colleague from my previous job that actually introduced me to lads, and that's how we're here today. Her partner, about 2 weeks after she recommended the game to me, found out about lads. Of course, when you look at Love and Deepspace, of course they're going to give you the more talked about content, which at the time was the, I want to say, which banner was it that this happened on? Because if it was 2 weeks after I played, I want to say it might have been when, oh, I don't want to misinform. I don't remember which banner in particular it was, but basically there was a particular scene with Raphael. Now, she was a Raph girly, so obviously, you know, she was gushing about it. Obviously, she wasn't talking to me about it because she didn't want me to get spoiled, which was still very respectful for her. But her boyfriend literally made her choose between the game and him. I don't know what decision she made in the end because she left after this, like, you know, she left about a week after this happened. But it was literally a situation where it's like, are you that insecure that you're making your girlfriend of 5 years pick between you and a fucking game? And if we, I guarantee you now, if we started attacking the men, PORN games, then they would come at us with pitchforks. So this is a two-way street, buddy. You can't have your cake and not eat it.
Some also appear to admit that they had deliberately used the A0731 controversy as a way to intensify the backlash.
What the fuck? The initial objective has been achieved, and the promises have been secured. No need to worry about adding more people later. Whether to stay or leave is a free choice. Actually, the results are quite good. I don't regret using the 731 method. What the actual fuck is wrong with people?
Against the game. Now, this does not prove that the entire controversy was manufactured by another fandom. It doesn't tell us how many people were involved, whether they were organized, or how much influence they already had. Screenshots of individual users cannot establish something that broad. From what I can see, there were dissatisfied players, there were minors accessing a product that was not made for them, there was misleading media coverage, and apparently outside spectators who were also interested in damaging the game. How large each group was and how much each contributed to this entire mess We don't know. Only Infold's or Paper Games legal team knows. Okay, with that being said, the CCTV report discussed this issue from a very official regulatory angle. And when everything is presented through that kind of formal language, it can start to feel distant. All of this can sound very distant when we talk about it through reports, regulations, and verification systems. So I want to show you what this problem actually looks like.
Also, Angel, I need to know, what's your fucking skincare? Because your skin is, like, immaculate and mine is shite. Like, you can't see anything at the moment because I got makeup and like, foundation on, but holy shit, you look stunning, girl.
Because we are talking about real children entering adult fandom spaces. So I'm going to present to you these screenshots. You may have seen this too, but these are screenshots of users openly identifying themselves as 11 years old.
What? Lil Cabinet, a deterioratory nickname for Love and Deepspace, implying it's a traitorous game. Just to clarify, I'm 11 and a half right now, so I'm not old enough to sign contracts yet. The fact that she has to specify that she's 11 and a half, like the fact she's added on the half, is concerning.
And still in elementary school. I've also seen accounts presenting themselves as 4th grade students, posting completely ordinary childhood content, homework, playing with slime, and then right beside it posting about love and deep space. And what concerns me right now is that not only that minors are bypassing an 18+ registration system and entering the game, it is also that some of these children appear to be participating in organized fandom groups and circles created and managed by adults. And how do we know that? There is a video of an adult openly admitting that there are a lot of children inside their circle.
然后呢，我们这边很多是虽然说我们禁止未成年玩，但是确实我身边也是有很多的未成年在玩。然后未成年的他们可能一年充个5块钱、6块钱。
你在说什么？你把那
First of all, that is fucking weird. Why are adults knowingly allowing large numbers of fucking children into fandom spaces built around an adult game? And second,
and this is the sort of reason why social media bans are becoming a conversation, because people are being stupid and not regulating the kids. And that's the thing. The kids do have a certain level of responsibility, granted. However, again, it comes down to the responsibility of the parents to make sure their children are safe and in a good position, especially when they are browsing the internet. If you're not monitoring what your kid is doing, you're doing something wrong as a parent.
We are now beginning to see the opposition to Valko and to the game continuing with 6 love interests instead of remaining at 5 was particularly strong among the youngest users participating in these discussions. How do we know that? Well, now we actually have some data. So on July 25th, Valko began trending on Weibo, which for anyone unfamiliar is basically China's equivalent to Twitter. And because the topic was trending, several large accounts created polls asking users whether they wanted Valko released or permanently removed. Okay, before I show you these numbers, I need to clarify what this data can and cannot tell us. These are Weibo polls and not scientific surveys. The participants selected themselves, and the same person may have voted in more than one poll. Please also keep in mind that I am only using the polls I was able to locate on July 25th, almost like 1 month after this controversy began. So these results should be understood as a snapshot of the opinions still being expressed at that point. But even with those limitations, the polls give us something meaningful, which
I do love me a little poll. I need to start doing polls for this community more. Like, I do it quite a lot in my Discord server to get gauges on how you guys are reacting. But Discord's not always the best way. So keep an eye out for August, because there will be a lot more polls going forward.
is a consistent direction signal. 5 different large accounts asked slightly different versions of the same question, whether people wanted Valko released or permanently removed. The overall results varied, but the age pattern remained remarkably consistent. In every single poll, the accounts Weibo classified as born after 2010 were overwhelmingly against Valko. And everyone in the post-2010 category is under 18 in 2026. The 2000s cohort, which includes both minors and young adults, was more divided. Meanwhile, the adults cohort, born in the 1980s and the 1990s, consistently supported his release across all 5 polls.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask this question first off. If you don't want Valko released, you don't have to interact with him, so why are you making such a big fuss about it? Problem number 1. Number 2, and this, I'm going to put my foot down when I say this. if you don't like Valko, then that's your own individual decision. Like, you know, I'm not the biggest Xavier girly, but am I going to diss any Xavier girly I ever meet? Absolutely fucking not. But the thing that's really upset me with this whole situation, like, Valko was supposed to be in the game. I would have released a shit ton of content for him by now. And he was going to take over Silas. The game does not feel the same without Valko there. And it's also, it's not just even that, it's also the fact that obviously this has happened. So what is stopping them from doing this again in the future? Like, what's stopping them from going for Caleb or Silas or Zane or any of the other love interests? Like, there's literally nothing stopping them. And I get that a lot of people are saying, well, we don't want another love interest because it's going to ruin the progress of the story. Okay, they removed Valko, but you're still not getting your main story update any faster, are you? Because they got to rewrite everything. And if they keep Valko out of the game permanently, they're probably going to have to either A, rewrite some story, which means they're going to have to get the VAs to redo certain lines and coding. And it's a lot of a bigger process than a lot of people seem to make it out to be. But also, most importantly, the players who have been playing since the beginning of the game are not going to feel the same, because it's going to be like, well, this is not what was originally planned for the game. Valko was due to be there this whole time. Like, if you looked back on the trailer and saw the thumbnails where they were like showing off what they were going to give away, the trademark on the poster, on like the illustration art, was 2023. He's been planned for years. He's just not come out until now because it was his chance in the story. You don't have to interact with a love interest if you don't like them. And this is why I get so annoyed, because, like, you know, I am the first person to admit a multi comes up and Xavier's probably one of the last people on the list. But am I going to actively dodge all of his content if I really wanted to? Yes, because I appreciate and understand that everyone's got their own preferences. Like, do I know that Silas is not everyone's cup of tea? Absolutely. Is, you know, Raphael everyone's cup of tea? No. Some people say he's too feminine, which honestly justified because he's a little brat. But at the end of the day, this is a game where you can make your own decisions on what you want to do. You don't have to interact with every single love interest. Now, granted, you would get some benefit for doing so because you get, like, you know, the chocolate from the chocolate shops and things like that. But you do not have to interact with every character in this game if you don't like them. And I think this is just, again, showing that children are not ready for this, because they would understand that thinking if they had any sort of common sense, which at that age, their brains are still developing, they're still learning about the world, and we can't expect them to have full common sense at that age by that point.
The individuals who are against Valko's release was consistently strongest among the youngest participating cohort, which is the only cohort that was entirely underage and should not have been accessing an 18-plus game in the first place. And that raises an uncomfortable question. How much influence should the preferences of underage users have over the creative direction of a product that was explicitly designed and restricted for adults?
None. They shouldn't get a single say. They shouldn't be playing the game. Simple as. My personal opinion. Let me know if you guys disagree. But if a game is very clearly for people over the age of 18 and you are 11 and a half years old and you are actively saying, oh, I don't like this character, sorry, your opinion don't matter. You shouldn't be on the game.
Because of all of these factors, we can no longer casually assume that everyone behind the loudest hostility was an adult consumer making an informed decision about a product intended for them. We can't quantify how many of the most violent, absurd posts came from children, but the combination of all of these things makes it impossible to dismiss minors as a tiny, irrelevant part of this discourse. This shit is kind of disturbing when you think about it, because this was not normal fandom drama. People were throwing around accusations about sexual violence, women's safety, wartime atrocities, and now we know literal elementary school kids may have been repeating those claims without fully understanding what they meant. Like, the thought of adults encouraging or validating children while they repeat things this serious and this extreme, it makes me sick. It's so gross. After the CCTV segment aired, a lot of people on Weibo and Xiaohongshu started demanding that Info introduce facial recognition for...
Right, I'm going to get back onto this in a minute. Loki's scratching at the wardrobe, so I've got to sort him out. 1 minute. I've just realised I've been recording for over an hour, and this was a 26-second video. So, Angel, I am so sorry. You just got me a little bit aggravated because of the situation. Not you. I'm mad at the situation. Hopefully, I am being respectful when I say that minors should not be on Love and Deepspace. But I'm gonna piss off some people with this video. I can tell.
The Chinese version of Love and Deepspace.
Bloody hell, my headphones have decided to turn themselves off. I was only playing with him for 10 minutes.
Aired. A lot of people on Weibo and Xiaohongshu started demanding that Infold introduce facial recognition for the Chinese version of Love and Deepspace. But the thing is, Paper Games had already announced a facial recognition system back in March of 2025. So the feature technically existed. The problem was that it depended entirely on the system recognizing an account as suspicious enough to trigger it. And according to some players, the chance of actually encountering that facial recognition check is almost close to zero. After this controversy, I would expect Paper Games to face pressure to either trigger it much more aggressively or introduce some form of stronger ongoing verification instead of treating it as an extremely rare secondary check. On a more positive note, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but Chinese players recently launched Letters for Valko, which is a campaign allowing players around the world to write to the development team of Love and Deepspace. What began with more than 160 letters from over 50 countries has now grown into more than 6,000 messages preserved on the campaign's website. On July 25th, at a cafe near the Paper Games building, players created an entire display filled with those letters, flowers, artwork, and wolf plushies. Visitors stopped to read them, take photos, and see just how much love exists for this character, the creative team, and just the devs. The organizers even provided 100 free coffees for Infold or Paper Game staff. Infold,
Oh, that's really wholesome. That actually makes me really happy, and I hope the guys at Infold are okay.
For games, this is what support looks like. These are your actual players. Players are translating letters across languages, building websites, organizing displays, and finding ways to make their voices travel across borders, all because they want to see the complete story your creative team intended to tell. We hope you listen to the people who continuously raise their voices through constructive action and not to those who try to dominate the conversation through lies, intimidation, and degrading stunts. I don't know what kind of legal or regulatory mess you guys are dealing with right now. Nobody knows what's happening behind closed doors, but Infold, Yarunhao, you better lock the fuck in, man. The whole world is watching. What Infold decides now, the higher-ups, the decision makers, Yarunhao, this will set a precedent far beyond Love and Deepspace for other Chinese games, other creators, and the way Chinese companies and Chinese creative industries are perceived internationally. Like, I really hope you make the right decision. And for everybody else, don't stop now. Just remember that this whole situation cannot be reduced to one simple issue. Every few days since the cancellation, we have uncovered another layer, another party involved, another piece of context. This shit is not that simple. But good thing is that I've now seen two very large influencers in China speak out about this issue in an objective light, and even try to clear up the misinformation, which tells me the conversation is finally starting to move and reach a wider audience, a more mainstream audience, which is what we want. It's what we need. We need more like mainstream influencers in China to talk about this shit. And honestly, I think the reason why the Chinese influencers in China have started to speak up now, like a month after the controversy, is because we did not stop. So let's not stop now. I think we should still do the same things. Keep correcting misinformation, keep making it clear that the people still want Valko, but also stay calm. Do not get dragged around by every single rumor, and do not invent an artificial deadline. And also, don't waste your energy arguing with people who clearly are not interested in listening. Don't
Honestly, Angel,
engage with...
I'm going to change your face so you don't look derpy on the video for you, love, but Do not make an artificial date. This is what we've been saying. I mean, I know why, and I understand why we had speculated we would have potentially heard something on the 29th, but I personally did not think we were going to get a response that quick. Again, as somebody who's got very limited knowledge in crisis PR and things like that from doing my digital marketing course a couple of, I want to say that was last year now, actually. These things do not get fixed overnight. This is a long-winded process, and especially the fact that things work differently in China versus over here in the European side. We need to just trust that Infold are doing what they can. Hopefully, as Angel said, they do make the right decision, and the decision they do make on this, I'm sure, is going to determine the future of not just the game, but many of the content creators who make content for the game, myself included. My kind of thought process on it right now is I'm just going to take the rest of this year as it comes and see what happens. If it comes to a point where we're at the end of the year and we still have not heard anything about Valko, or the fact that we've gone back to business as normal, then I will kind of make my decision. But I don't want to let my emotions take control and potentially sever ties with a company that have actually treated me quite well, all things considered. And personally, as somebody who only seems to get, like, you know, collaborations with either people who are clearly not, like, keeping up with the channel, or people who they don't like, you know, the AI chat box and things like that, I don't want to squander any genuine opportunities that I do get with this game. And I do genuinely love and Deepspace. I really do. This game, regardless of what happens, is always going to have a soft spot in my heart. But it is definitely, it's a shame that it's gotten to this point and that Infold are in this position. But I do agree that we just need to set our own boundaries. If you want to continue to boycott the game, feel free to do so. If you want to still play the game but not spend, you know, as I've said before, this is a non-judgment environment. But if you are under the age of 18 and playing lads, then I personally would say that you're too young to be playing Love and Deepspace. But my opinion can be different from other people, so just please take that with a pinch of salt.
The crazies. Alright, that's it. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Bye.
Bye, Angel. I love you. Right, anyway, let me know what you guys think on that. I realise a video that would have maybe taken me 30 minutes to turn into over an hour because I started rambling and really talking about the situation. But this is one of those... smacking the mic. This is one of those topics that I feel very strongly about, because I do genuinely think that this has gone way out of, like, control. This is not something that should have gone to this level, and I do think that, you know, the people who have started this should be held accountable. Will I say that we need to go and physically attack them? No, absolutely not. But I do think that Infold are trying to do the right thing. They know the demand for a Valko is there. You know, they've seen how much we're doing in his name. And we have done genuinely so well as a community to try and just make everything positive about this. Like, you know, the letters to Valko, the wolf conservation projects. We are doing the right thing. We just need to, as Angel said, we just need to keep our voices heard. Not shut up about it. Keep posting, keep the hashtags alive. Obviously, if there are any major updates, and I will try to get a video out as well, so we continue covering, like, the sort of situations on this channel. But I, as someone who does not have very good knowledge of how things work over in China, I will not make my own video talking about it. I'll more, like, you know, watch someone else talk about it and then add my thoughts on top of that, because, like I've done today. Hopefully we can cover more of Angel's videos as well going forward in the future. So bless her. I did reach out to her to ask for consent to react to her videos, which she very kindly gave me permission to do. Like, the fact that Angel actually sent me a friend request on Discord is a little sort of thing, because I've been wanting to be friends with her for so long, and I was too shy to ask because I'm just a baby. But I will be trying to keep this space as positive still as possible. But I do just want to re-emphasize we do need to take care of ourselves, especially with everything going on right now. And, you know, this is going to be one of those positions where this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. But as Angel said, take care of yourselves. You know, stay hydrated. Obviously, it's still heat wave in the fucking UK. It's now been going on for 3 weeks, which is bloody ridiculous. The fan has been working overtime, so praise to the fan. And I'm going to be working on the other Lugio montages. I was hoping to get them all up before the end of August, but, sorry, the end of July. But these clips are just taking me way too goddamn long. So this is probably going to be my last normal video until a double upload month starts, which keep an eye out because we'll be doing some polls every week to determine what we're going to be posting. Because even though I've got some ideas planned, you guys are going to get more influence on when. And of course, if you are a channel member, you can get a free trial, I believe YouTube recently implemented. So if you haven't already, go check it out. But I believe you get a 1 month free trial to every content creator. So if you haven't used your trial, now is the best time for you to use it. With it being double upload month, you'll get early access to all the new content. And if you did want to stay a member after your trial, the talc membership will get you the early access, and that is only translates to 99p in Great British pounds, because I want to make this as affordable as possible for everybody, but I do not want you to feel obligated to support me, because I understand we've all got our own individual circumstances, and some of us may not be as financially well off as others. But on that note, I am going to leave you with a sense of positivity and say that I am genuinely so proud of all of you for everything that we've been doing for Valko. Let's just keep it going. Let's keep the conversations going. Keep it strong. And, of course, please continue to support each other in the comments as well. I've only had to delete a couple of nasty comments in the last couple of weeks, which have been really negative. So I am really appreciative that I kind of feel like I don't have to babysit the comments so much with this topic, which was a worry of mine. But on that note, I am going to get on and move on to this next montage that I need to work on. So I'm going to leave you here. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.